My name is David Chow, and I'm an entrepreneur, I guess. A lot of times you kind of don't know what you're into until you're into it, you know. But I do have some genes from my dad. My dad started a company, so it's not something new. But in the early 2000s, I started a flashlight company, and it started as a hobby. I modified flashlights and made them high-performing LED flashlights, and that's when the LEDs really started taking off. Before, the LEDs were just kind of indicators, you know, red, green, yellow. They weren't that bright. In the early 2000s, they discovered a way to make white LEDs, which really is blue LEDs with a little layer of phosphorus, converting the blue light to white light. And now we know light bulbs, everything, they're everywhere. But I was fortunate to be at the very beginning of that. I had an engineer background from Georgia Tech that I didn't really use until then. So I met some guys in China, and we basically made the first single AA like 20 plus lumen flashlight. Before that, nobody else did it. Anyway, so I ran for about 10 years, and I learned a lot of lessons, and I didn't go in there thinking, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, you know, but I just kind of pedaled around, and then I had some very helpful people who gave me advice how to take the company forward, and you know, I'm really an engineer at heart, so I really needed a lot of that guidance. At the peak, I had a 10,000 square foot facility with about 20 employees, and I owned part of the factory in China. When I started by modifying these lights myself. You know, I'd make like $20 or something off of it, but I would spend hours and hours. It was not profitable, you know. But I was able to sell my little creations. But I was fortunate to have run into some people in China for manufacturing. I think that was a huge factor to be able to produce lights in quantity with a reasonable amount of precision, you know, and repeatability. And if I was trying to build it in the States, I wouldn't be able to do it, you know. And for sure, that was a big part of it. When I started, I think I had about $300 I put into it. And then at a certain point, I just kept putting the little bits of profit back in, and I think I borrowed maybe like $2,000 from my dad, you know, paid him back after a couple months. But I didn't take a loan from a bank like a lot of businesses do. You know, they leverage themselves. So I didn't really do it from a traditional sense. I just kind of did it from grassroots, and it took a long time to build up. And which I don't mind, you know. I'd rather stay within my means, you know, instead of try to have rapid growth. And but at a certain point, it really began to take off. One of the biggest factors is my, I guess, a fan base. You know, they really appreciated the design in my products. I spent a lot of time educating people in the forums about the technology and the reasoning behind the design, and half the time I'm educating, you know. And then through that education, it was like there's a marketing factor, and then I built a fan base. You know, without the fan base, I wouldn't have been able to grow as much as I did, you know. And to this day, there's still a lot of people who reach out and are like, yeah, why don't you go back into flashlights, you know? And I tell them, hey, I don't even carry a flashlight anymore. I just have the cell phone, you know, light. And they're like, no, David, no, don't do that. But they're really diehard fans, more than I am or was. Everything has a cost to it, you know. And for me, it was lots of late nights, you know. When I started, I was still was kind of a youth minister for 10 years before I started the company. So my wife and I would start, you know, answering customer questions, packing orders around 10 p.m. at night, you know. You know, and it would end about 2 a.m. and we had our first kid then, and after we put them to bed, that's when things started, you know. But that didn't stop there. Throughout the years, you know, it's not like a job where it ends at 5 or whenever you get off. It's nonstop, you know. I remember one time my wife and I woke up in the middle of the night and we're like, what about this employee? Do we need to give him a raise, or do we you know, like 3 a.m., you know, like even your sleep is not peaceful. You know, there's a lot of challenges, and of course there's a lot of perks, meaning flexibility. We can shift time, we can do family vacations where most people can't, you know, or other resources. But the other side is it does take a toll on the family and kids too, you know. So you know, if it was easy, everybody would do it, you know. But there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't think. Oh, the big thing was in 2012, the biggest flashlight maker in the industry sued us. And for, you know, 2 items that our attorney said that it's really frivolous. There's no point at all. And if we had the resources, we would take them down. We would invalidate their patents. But what happened was in the next 2 years, it slowed our innovation down. I stopped innovating because I was thinking, what are we going to do? Are we gonna be around when this lawsuit hits, you know? And we're paying one attorney $1,000 an hour. Crazy, you know? So eventually we settled to our favor tremendously. And but the net effect of that lawsuit worked. It slowed me down. I second guessed my innovations, you know, the engineering. It slowed us down. So that was kind of the beginning of us slowing down until in 2017 we sold. But there's a lot of factors. This, in a sense, you can call it corporate bullying. You know, they have a bigger war chest, you know. And anyway, but over the years it wound down. The China factor came in, a lot of knockoffs came in, and it was the right time to sell. So in 2017 I sold the company. So it was a good run, and I learned a lot through experience, through lots of failures, but it was definitely worth the journey. And one takeaway I would say is the best way to ruin a hobby is by turning into a business. And you could probably echo, you know, following your passion to turn it into something profitable. Eventually it becomes not about the company or the product. It's like managing people, managing customers, and eventually that's the challenge you face, you know. But still, it's worth it. And I'm grateful to have gone through that, you know. And for sure, if I start another company, it will be with all that experience added to it.